So that's the big debate to take place on Tuesday. And this question is first. I'll come over here second.
Okay, you had mentioned early on in the discussion that there's a possibility we could take that money and say we've already provided a raise to our employees. Thank you very much to the state, and just say, okay, we did that before. We were ahead of you.
Yep.
Okay. Is that legal?
Yep. Well,
does it take the money?
Legal is whatever ultimately they adopt as their budget and becomes part of the code and all the other things they do. I don't know their technical process. It is an option, but it's an option that has been taken off the table by the governor. He made it very clear that my understanding, I obviously have no direct contact whatsoever, my understanding, though, is that that option has been absolutely removed from the discussion. So that's what created the other situation. I'll come here in a second. It was Carolyn.
Okay, that was a great evidence-based outcome for what I asked you before as advocates for the children. Your board does not raise taxes.
Of course not.
City council raises taxes.
Right.
Your board is to make sure these kids get the best education and be prepared for a global economy.
Correct.
If you cannot, and everybody, if you have a job, you want to be paid and compensated for what you do.
Absolutely.
Teachers are no different.
Absolutely.
So, as the child's advocate, you would want to have the best that there is. And so the best teachers in our society acknowledge the best is in terms of financial compensation. So why is it that you're concerned about the taxes when you don't have taxing authority? The budget comes from what I understand, comes from where? The council?
Council ultimately adopts the entire budget. That includes the school board budget.
They have no problem for the people that they advocate for, businesses. They don't have any problem. So I want to know, very respectfully, why is it that you, as the children's advocate, are not you individually, but as a board, that tenacious for your group?
I'm giving, and you're surmising where my opinion is coming out.
No, I'm not saying you as
okay.
an individual. I'm talking about your board.
And I don't want to speak for the whole board on that question, but I will speak for myself.
Ask them.
You can, absolutely, and should, and should.
Because you don't have taxing authority.
No, we don't.
So then why are you, I'm asking, very respectfully, why are you worried about the tax part of it when you were elected to be that child's advocate?
I'm elected to be that child's advocate, and I'm also elected to be responsible with the resources that we're provided
Okay,
to run our
now
school
the
system.
resources that you're provided come from where?
City council and the
city
state and the federal
council.
government.
It comes from
Well,
us.
yeah, ultimately, I understand.
And basically, they decide your budget and their budget. Right? So they don't have any problem putting business ahead of education?
That is a city council discussion. My position is to evaluate the competitiveness of our compensation package for school employees as compared to what their other options may be.
But you don't have any money to pay.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Yes.
And this does not have to do with the budget. It had to do with your opening statement.
Yeah.
That schools do not fail. It's the community and the family that fails these students. My question, because there was something some time ago, that the grading of schools.
The grading of schools, yes.
The grading of schools. What is the status of this grading of schools?
It is. I wish Carolyn Weems was here because she's our legislative person. It is a piece of legislation that was moving through the General Assembly that would assign a letter grade to schools. I do not know precisely what the matrix was as to how that letter grade would be determined, nor do I know precisely what the status of that is. I will tell you that there are a number of different methods out there already for grading schools. And again, I have some issue with slapping a letter on a school that is quote unquote failing. What is a failing school? And I'll tell you, in Virginia Beach, we don't have any failing schools.
As an educator, I have a problem.
Thank you.
Question.
Okay, I'm going to take two more, but go ahead.
Two more. Great. Question for you. As far as, obviously, the state gets money from the federal government, and everybody knows what the situation the federal government's in, and then everybody knows what the situation the state's in. What confidence, if any, do you have that the city and city manager are looking years out for funding that's not going to be there in the future, sequestration that could be coming on and all that? And are you have any confidence that they're budgeting? Are you guys teaming with them? And then the other thing would be sounds like to me we need to do with this OQS. Who are they to tell us as a locality how we should spend our money on our children?
Couldn't answer the question. Point well made. In terms of getting to some of the cuts that be coming from federal,
right.
The biggest impact we would have there appears to be, and again, so much of this is vague right now, and people are trying to figure out what it all means. But our understanding right now is the biggest impact on the federal side is going to be federal impact dollars.
Sure.
It is going to be a 7-digit number. But in the low 7 digits. I don't know exactly what that works out to be, but that would be something we have to address. On the state side, we're in constant communication with our delegates and our representatives. And on the city council side, we do work primarily within the context of the funding formula. I don't know that anybody has any specific outline that you're referring to.
Well, yeah, I just know that I do watch the offline council meetings and everything, and John Moss even mentioned it numerous times. City manager, what are you doing to look at things that are coming down the line as far as funding, sequestration? It's like, well, we're kind of looking at it and all that stuff, but I guess my question is, I'm sure you guys are probably trying to work with city council and let them know that, hey, listen, things are coming down the line, and are we projecting this? What is our plan in case of these funding is not there?
We're ultimately the ones that are really at the receiving end of all of this.
Absolutely.
I know there's a number of very significant issues that council is dealing with that could seriously impact how resources are allocated around the city.
Right.
And ultimately, though, our role isn't quite as proactive on the funding side because we don't really control a lot of that. We're more on the receiving side. And we're constantly thinking about and evaluating.
Will they let you keep your money when you have gained deficiencies? I know last time they took it away from you. So is there any move to make sure that, to encourage the type of behavior which you had before, which we had money there, and it was, then the city says, no, it's our money, and takes it away from you. So obviously that makes you want to spend everything that you get, maybe not as efficiently as you should, right?
My focus is still going to be to spend the dollars efficiently and make the best decisions we can. And what council does, I'll let you ask council that question. Right here, and I've told that's my last one.
Last question. Same word for that. Thank you for your presentation. I was at the school board meeting when you voted against the tax increase, so I do understand you're wanting for accountability to the general public for not raising taxes, to fully funding schools. I do appreciate that. My question is, when we talk about teachers, we're talking about raising their pay. During the campaign trail, Chuck Dave and I went to the School Bus Drivers Association. I was sickened to hear how much they make after they put into the VRS system. I think a lot of them bring home about maybe, if they've been there less than 5 years, like $11,000. I don't know about you, with light rail coming through, who can make it off of that?
That's right.
Some people have been in the system for like 18 years and they're about maybe $25,000. That's after years of service. So we talk about raising taxes and doing things like that for teachers. What about the bus drivers? What about the custodial staff? I mean, we never really hear that. So my question is when we talk about raising pay for teachers, are we talking about raising pay for school bus drivers? Because those see our children early in the morning before the teachers even see them.
Let me address the question in two parts. One, the compensation adjustments that have been referred to in terms of this budget debate, these affect all school employees from the superintendent down. Secondly, and if you've watched some of the school board meetings, I know you have, I'm a market-driven guy. I always have been, and I always will be as far as I can imagine. Because somebody is not paid a lot doesn't necessarily mean they're underpaid. And there's a distinction that you may or may not appreciate. But what I have to do is look at the ability to fill a position with competent, qualified folks at an acceptable level of retention as to not create disruption to the system. And from there, you will determine what the appropriate compensation level is. We have sufficient and significant data for lots of positions that deal with hiring, the pipeline of people interested in the position, the qualifications of those folks, which is measured by their review process, whether it's bus drivers and the process they go through, or custodial staff. There's a number of different ways in which folks are evaluated and their productivity and efficiency is evaluated. And then ultimately retention. So, I personally do not buy into the argument that the lowest paid person in your system must be underpaid because they are the lowest paid person. They may be. If we do not have the ability to attract qualified employees to fill that position and retain those employees for a sufficient amount of time as to not create disruption to our system.
Well, Bill, here's my rebuttal to that. And I do understand what you're saying as far as that's concerned, but when I look at a driver, when I call John Finner, John got a film I need you to drive for me. John can go to about 5 different places and get about maybe $50. I feel like I need to pay him a little bit more than that because I want to take care of my stuff. I mean, that's just how it is, you know. He'll take care of my stuff, in turn he'll take care of my families, and I'm, you know, just pay a little bit extra. It may not be the $150 I like to pay him, but it is still, you know, it's still competent. But going there, these people have put in years of service, and I do see your point, but they put in years of service, and I do think that is, and the group is unified. They're very unified, they're very organized, and they really care about the system, but they care about the children also. But my thing is that I think their years of service should count for something. I'm not saying pay them, an astronomical amount of money. I do agree with that portion, but from what they have to deal with tax increases. They have to deal with the real estate property going up. A lot of them own homes, so for that being said, shouldn't have to say for something. There's a lady that's been there 25 years driving buses. It's like it boggles the mind. So obviously there is some kind of loyalty that she does have to the system.
That's an interesting comment, saying as a hypothetical bus driver.
No, I said driving the hearse.
Oh, okay. That's a different kind of bus.
Yeah.
How many people drive school buses as their only job and there's no other income coming into that family?
There's a lot.
Yeah, hey guys, we're going to let y'all finish that. So I think we're going to wrap it up.